In this video, we're going to go over experimental probability. Experimental probability basically is having us use the data that's already been collected from an experiment and then use that to say what actually did happen for a specific event. What we're going to do today for class is we're going to actually do our own little experiment. It's going to be a simple event, which means we're just going to do one thing. What we're going to do today is we are going to toss a plastic cup into the air. Toss a plastic cup into the air. You get to decide how high. You get to decide if you want to have open end up, open end down, or drop it on its side. We are going to toss it a total of 20 times. Then as the cup lands, you have three possible outcomes. It could land like this, open end up, just like a normal cup would sit. It can land open end down or upside down from a normal way a cup would land. Or your cup could land on its side. So in your journals, you'll find this page. This table is where we're going to record our data. We're going to use tally marks. As you toss your cup, when it lands one of these three ways, you would use some type of writing device and tally mark how it ended up landing. As you go, when you get to 5 marks, record your mark going sideways so that's easy to keep track and count by 5s. You are only going to toss your cup 20 times. When you're done, we're going to use this data that's in your table to then answer some questions. So now let's say you filled out your table over here. Let's pretend let's see, that's 10, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay, I'm going to pretend like this was my data. Okay, whatever your tally marks were, you're going to use this now to answer your questions. There was one that said make a prediction on what do you think would be most likely. Remember, likely means over half. So which one occurred most of the time? We're going to use the words likely and unlikely now to describe my 3 different outcomes. So if you have anything that is more than half from yesterday, more than half of the time, you would use the word likely. If you have something that landed less than half the time, you would use the word unlikely to describe. So that's what you would put on these 3 lines right here by looking at your own numbers, okay? Then question 3, it says, use the number of times each event occurred to calculate the probability. So now that we have these individual occurrences with our tally marks, we're going to make our probability fraction answer. So they're telling you that your denominator should be 20 because we flipped the cup 20 times. Okay, our total was supposed to be 20. So you can count your tally marks and make sure you have 20. Then all I'm simply doing is I'm looking for open end up. My table has open end up. I would just come over and count how many times it was. For me, for my pretend experiment, I got a 5. So then I would just put 5 out of 20. Then I would do the same thing for open end down. On mine, I only had 1. So I would come over here and put a 1. And then for on its side, my last section for my fraction probability answer, I have 5, 10, and 4. That makes 14. So I would put 14 right there. Then number 4, it says, what do you think would happen if you performed more trials? If I kept doing this experiment, what would happen to my data? Would I keep ending up getting the same one most of the time? Would they start to even out? You make a prediction right here on number 4 of what you think would happen. Then number 5, it says, what is the sum of the 3 probabilities in the table? So my probabilities are these 3 fraction answers. And then the word sum means add. Okay, so I would add these 3 fractions together. For me, I have 5/20 plus 1/20 plus 14/20. And I would say, what does that equal? Remember, fractions, once you have the denominator the same, it stays the same for your final answer. So then I would just need to add those together and see what I get. So the last thing is, in your homework, you're not going to do your own experiment. We just did that for fun today. In class, you're going to be using story problem situations or sentences to write your own probability. So here's one. It says Daniel flipped his cup 24 times. The cup landed on open end up 4 times, open end down 6 times, and on its side 14 times. What is the experimental probability that the next toss will land open end down? So instead of me having a table, what I have is all the information in a sentence. So I'm going to be looking for the question, what is the probability that the next toss will land on open end down? So this is similar to just doing the dice or the marbles. I'm looking for the probability. I always have the total on the bottom. And then this one says I want to know specifically open end down. Then I would just simply go count to see. If it tells me the total, then I just use it. If not, I need to add them up. Okay, so I know the total is 24. Open end down. I'm going to go find that number. Open end down says 6. So then I would put a 6 up here. Okay, 6 out of 24. If you wanted to simplify that, you could. It could simplify down to be 1/4. And then that is definitely less than half. So this would be unlikely if I had to use a word to describe it. So my 2 fraction answers and my descriptive word. I have 6 out of 24, or I have 1 out of 4, and then the word to describe that is unlikely.